Uh, we're going to be chatting about Free Eye Atlas tonight.
Yeah,
Did you want to chat about any of your experiences or viewing it or show anything? Maybe it's entirely up to
I
you.
I love this target. I don't know if I can show some of it, some sketches, some ideas which came from it. So yeah,
Awesome.
we're still going to wait for the others or
We're pretty much 1 minute past. I'll keep an eye on letting people in. They're still coming in all the time. I can't press the button fast enough at the moment. Well, so we'll give it a couple more minutes.
okay.
And then yeah, maybe if we start with well, I can start with my stuff, I guess, and my
Yeah,
experiences with
absolutely.
Free
Yeah,
Eye.
absolutely.
Then anyone else that's had a look at the Free Eye Atlas, we can have a look at their stuff or ask any answer any questions, or just discuss it. And then literally just open it up the whole floor to anyone can ask questions of anything they want, share, or anything really. And that's how we usually do things. So that for those people new to this, the last one we did, we just discerned was a year ago, but it's essentially a community chat. So anyone can join in and ask questions and share. We try to keep it as much as possible to the topic of remote viewing, but anything related is allowable. If someone's talking or presenting or something and you have a question that you want to ask them, we ask if you could put your hand up, and you do that by clicking the raise hand button that's usually it's on the bottom. Is it still on the bottom? Should be there somewhere. I can't see it on mine. It changes every time they update this thing. Oh yeah, it's under React now. And is it under React? Yes, it's
Yep.
under React now. They've moved it. Yeah, so we ask that you put your hand up, then I will try to notice it, or if anyone else prompts me, I'll then ask you to turn your mic on and ask your question. Um, yeah, we like dialogue on this thing. We don't like if people hog the mic for too long, so we 5 to 10 minutes at a time, if that's at all possible. Because there's usually a lot of people that want to share and ask questions and stuff. We also ask that people be respectful of other people's opinions and try not to swear or yeah, be too bad towards people. That's pretty much it for the rules, really. As you can see, it's all being recorded. So we do, if you don't want to be on camera, then, you literally have to turn your camera off and be extra quiet. We do have the chat window as well. Bear with me, and I'm going to see if I can open that up on my screen. So if you don't want to ask questions with your microphone, if you stick it in the chat window, myself or someone else will usually pick that up and try to ask it on your behalf. And that's always a good window as well. If people are talking and you want to share any links, videos, clips, sessions, all that kind of stuff, you can do so in that window as well. Excellent, guys. So what we'll do is we'll pretty much start straight away on this. We got 32 people in at the moment. I'll keep letting people in as they come along. And tonight we were going to talk about Free Eye Atlas. And to be honest, I haven't got anything fully arranged on this. I thought we'd just have a general kind of everyone talk about this because if you've been looking like myself and Dimmy have in the RV community, there are quite a few big projects out there from different sources of remote viewers out there. And the consensus from all of them seems to be, if I'm reading the information correct, that most people are picking up that there might be something a bit more to the object than it just being a natural object. Our concern, and Dimmy and me talked about this quite a lot when we did our project, and I also talked about it in my previous project because I've worked this project twice now. I've worked it once blindly as a remote viewer for Future Forecasting Group, and then coincidentally at the same time, I didn't know I was being worked on that target, but I set the target for the Rabbit Hole remote viewers to do at the same time, and I was a project manager on that one. So weirdly, I was a viewer and a project manager on the same target for two different groups of people at the same time on that one. There we're going to let some more people in here. And now in my future forecasting target, which I can share my window with you because I believe in sharing RV on this forum and everyone getting to see each other's work. I didn't have a very good session, so the target was Free Eye Atlas. Let me move the meeting window here a second and get all this big view. Uh, I didn't have any contact at all with. Oh, let me see if I can get a cursor on this to make it easier for you guys to see what I'm talking about. There we go. So this was my RV session I did for Future Forecasting Group. It was blind. All I had was that number there, 7801. I didn't know it was Free Eye Atlas at the time. But all my data I had in my RV session has nothing whatsoever to do with a comet. Um, Bear with me a sec, guys. I got to let some other people in if I can find them here. Yeah, so I didn't have any data that was to do with a comet whatsoever. And out of the four remote viewers, I think the only one that had solid comet type data was Dick. The rest of us had very strange esoteric stuff. And as you can see here, I had all this stuff about telepathic kind of communication here. And here's a life form here with a halo and this energy. So I had all this weird stuff like time travel and energetic involving particles that can move in different ways, time and space. More strange stuff here with like wormhole type stuff. So I had this drawing here, and I felt like this was a life form that was in some kind of weird psi contact in some way, using these alleged quantum kind of wormholes or microtubules, I think they call them. Again, some random information here, pathways and chakra pathways and gateways, passages and entryways. Again, like a sense of doorways into other realms and dimensions and all this kind of stuff. So again, nothing Free Eye Atlas like this very strange chakra-like energy pattern here. So which was like an esoteric geometric mantra, which was a vortice and spiral, very energetic and it felt very alive. And this was coming from a life form. So here's the life here, my little stick man with this energy that was coming out from the top of his head. And this is me trying to draw this vortice of energy here, which I felt was like a travel point of energy. So that was my RV session on it. And my conclusion, once they gave me feedback on the night, and Naeem's here as well, he worked this target for Future Forecast Group. My impression when I got my day back on the night was because I was getting so much esoteric, psi based data, I felt that because I didn't get any solid Free Eye Atlas data, I didn't think that this psi stuff was coming from Free Atlas. I felt like we are, or I was picking up social constructs of people talking and thinking about Free Eye Atlas in a way that was communicating it, or in a non kind of verbal way. That's my impressions from it anyway. That's the only time I've worked this as a remote viewer, as I said. The other project I worked was when I worked Dimmy, and I think Carl's here as well against this target. And I think they might tell you a bit about what they got working it with me as a tasker and them as remote viewers on this one. Who would like to go first? Do you want to share a bit, Dimmy?
Yes, I want at first, if it's okay, I want to just to remind everybody what is different about this comet. And it's different because what is anomalous, let's more say. It's anomalous, the idea of timing being very close in proximity to Venus, Mars, and Saturn in a short time, and which is really odd. The idea of being almost parallel on the ecliptic plane, of having some unnatural chemical compounds, uh, exactly the nickel iron ratio being almost like an artificial kind that we use or people use or on rockets. What more? At some point, Avilov says that it's coming from the point of the wow signal, which was something which was discovered like 50 years ago or something like it. And one of the late discoveries that I think it's really amazing, besides many other maybe, but everybody is knowing about, is that it has a kind of a sheet, an outer sheet that they decided that it's renewing every 6 months or so because of what they see and what they see on the spectral analyzers. on it. Said this is really strange. A comet that it's renewing its sheet, its outer part every 6 months. It's absolutely crazy as hell. Okay, I will share some of my, if it's okay. Can I share? Yeah. Okay. So I start really early with some energy coming from up, and I draw this first at some point, and those were holes that some big, massive kind of rock moving through space and was glowing, really glowing. That's why, it has a lot of gravity to it. And this yellow that I'm showing here, it's because I didn't know how to draw the fact that it was really illuminated. And behind it was a kind of debris, I thought. I've got an idea of a zombie rock or a diamond rock at some point. I will move really fast to the second things that I've seen, because at some point I've seen that it has a lot of holes, natural holes. For me, it was from the first to the final page of my session. It was a natural object, but it has some unnatural aspect to it. So in these holes, like caves inside, there are things that were sheltering there, and I've seen as something like man-made, artificial coming from there. I didn't see any kind of life or proof of life as like a life form being alive, but I've seen signs of something that was once upon a time alive. So these were signs or messages. For me, it was like a flag showing in the distance, a message showing for a long time and distance from my entire session was that. And at some point, it did look also like Oumuamua. I've got these really big holes with kind of shatter water or whatever it was there. Either I didn't know, liquid or everything like liquid. And what's more, this moving object with that blue glow that I've really seen in my vision, like a flash during the session, and this idea of speeding and moving in a circle way, and then I went to the idea of this rock being having inside little units like nuclear units that were propelling or directing this mass of rock in the right in a way or another. And it felt like a nuclear type of energy, but I was not really sure about it. But my mind came to this idea because it's the only thing that I know about. And I think pretty much I resume what I've had in my session. And yes, at this point I had this kind of long object that reminded me of Oumuamua. And that's it pretty much, I think. But it was like a signal and a legacy and something sent from a long time ago, from a long space, from a long distance. And it felt really important. By the way, all these months since it appeared for the first time, I was involved really deep in that. And I never thought it was like, because I know they had their target as 3 Atlas. I was really sure this is not 3 Atlas. I wrote it just to stay on my line and wrote back. So that's it pretty much. The glow, the things, I think it's a lot more than that, but I will stop here. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Demi. As I said earlier, if any of you guys got any questions, just stick your hand up and ask away really on this. I see Pat wants to have a go.
Yep. I wanted to ask Dimi, I saw her presentation on the FFG group, and I was so impressed. And you're the one that actually got me to take the course with Daz, also because of your impressive work.
I'm so
I was just
happy.
wondering how long you worked at that 3i Atlas target. It was like so complex and so amazing.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to hear about your next journey, let's say, and happy to be involved in that way in your journey. I think it went for 4 sessions. Each session have uh, at least 40 minutes to 60 minutes to one hour and a half. It was it's complex because it was coming complex. I'm not trying when I'm trying to explain, I'm going the wrong way. If you know what I mean.
It was so detailed. It was amazing.
Thank you very much. Sometimes it happened. Sometimes it's happened. Thank you very much. And good luck.
I'm trying.
Thanks, Pat. Next with their hands up is Heather, if you'd like to go ahead.
Hello, Des. Oh, it's great to see you back.
Hi there. Thank you.
I'd be interested to know whether or not any of the viewers use any of their other senses with regard to 3i Atlas, not just their vision. Did they hear anything? Did they attempt to touch it, taste it, to get near it?
Can I
So
answer
I'd be
that?
interested to know.
Yeah, go for it, Demi.
Thank you. Well, it's not about really touch, but it's when you're asking for a certain smell or a certain uh, type of touch, you're getting the answer like an automatic type of answer, but it's not necessary when you get you're touching and you're feeling like it's prickly, but sometimes you feel it's salty because sometimes the senses are intricated during the session. But it's not like feeling. Sometimes it is a feeling, but it's really rare during the session. I have only from time to time this really rare type of I sense vertigo or type of dizziness or I sense really fear deep inside. Otherwise, it's coming, the answers are coming when I'm prompting them during the session. So it's not like really touch, sense, feel, see. And when I'm drawing, 90% of my drawings are not coming from the flash visual or the visual, are coming from the automatic sense of how the fingers are looking on the paper to do the job.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Daz? Was there any type of, because I know some remote reviewers, they bilocate as well, so they feel as if they're being transported to the area they're targeting. What about you, Daz? Did you see any? Oh, you saw something, but did you experience anything else with other senses?
On most other, on all other targets, using remote viewing, I always touch, taste, smell, and do everything about the target using my normal clairs or senses. But as I showed in my session on this that I did blind for Future Forecasting Group, there's not one piece of data in the 9 pages that has any physicality to it whatsoever. So I didn't have any textures, tastes, smells, or anything. It was all very strange, esoteric kind of target, which is intangible and non-physical, which afterwards, once I had the feedback, led me to believe that I wasn't picking up anything to do with a physical object. So my data was completely, I think, picking up on people's faults, myths, and beliefs about the target in this one, because there was no hard data in mine whatsoever.
Right, okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. Carl, you also worked as target for Rabbit Hole. Would you like to share what you got on this for the guys?
Yes. Rather than going through all the sessions, I'll just share a couple of the pictures that I used in my presentation. But we were given this target in summer, and so everybody on summer holiday, and I was on a media blackout because I was doing other things. I was in the countryside. And the interesting thing was, in my session, I wrote down, oh, there's a lot of noise around this target. And in fact, when we started, there was nothing going on. And then all of a sudden, it just blew up in the media. It was unbelievable, the amount of attention. And since then, Daz and Dimi have been looking at stuff and looking at other people's sessions. And I am trying to, every time I see somebody says to me, did you do it? I don't want to hear anything about it, because I don't want to give myself like that feedback loop of other people's ideas of it. But I started off getting like this dry land with a kind of an unraveling of the land from inside, and this great big craft coming out of the land. So that's it there. So that I'm not going to put it on presentation mode. I'll keep it there. Is it seeable? No, it's saving. I'm trying to make it bigger, but hang on. So I've got this huge big craft thing coming out of the land. There you go. And I've got a vehicle with multiple beings in here. Right. So I'm absolutely fascinated by these other world crafts, and I go back and I'm looking at it, trying to work out how it works. It's got these silvery things and it's articulated. It reminds me of the snow plow. So, and there's a few words that I had about it. It's got it's communicating. It's like Snowpiercer. And it can't stay underground anymore. So I had the whole beginning of my session was this craft coming out of the strange, foreign-looking planet, Earth planet. And at one stage, I moved inside the craft, and I found I knew that there were beings in there, and I was trying to find them in the craft, and the craft was empty. And I kept thinking, what's going on here? I knew there were creatures. Where are they? And then I found something that I can only describe as like bin-like, box-like things, which had creatures in suspended animation. So, but they're telepathic. Which might be what Daz was, he just went straight to the creatures, but they did have tubes in there. I did try, and it's quite a difficult thing to draw because they were in this liquidy stuff, and there were layers of them, there were rows of them, and but they've got stuff around their heads and tubes, but somehow they're in a fetal position. So I don't know how that works with the twisting of it. And in some of them, I felt that the liquid had run out. So some of them, there I am trying to describe they're in like incubator things for babies. It's like blue lit. They're in water ice kind of plasma stuff, and they can they're not fixed. It's not rigid. They can actually sway. So they there's a bit of movement. It wasn't, and yeah. So that are they dead? I got quite emotional about all this thing, but so yeah. That's the head thing, and you've seen this on the Future Forecasters thing. That's the head thing, and these big dreaming eyes that you with and it's a head clamp and tubes. So yeah, it definitely made me think that there were creatures, lots of creatures on board there, and that it was a vehicle. I wasn't really getting. Some people were getting like crystalline, crystals on the outside of it, and sort of more comety things like meteorite type of. But I really had this huge vehicle come out of a planet that had eviscerated from the inside, and that there is contact. So there is telepathic contact. They are in contact with Earth. I felt that they'd been betrayed as well, and that it happened a long time ago. But anyway, so
Excellent, Carl. Thanks for that. Thanks for sharing and everything. Again, guys, if you have any questions, just use the react button, stick your hand up, or just shout out at this stage. I have a question in the chat, and it's from Christian, and he says, "Can you share the tasking of the two projects?" I don't have the future forecasting one, and that's behind the paywall, so I can't share that. But the tasking I set the guys at Rabbit Hole was this, if you can see this on the screen there. So there's the number 01080831. The object called Free Eye Atlas in space, August of 2025. So they were looking at it primarily in the month of August. My cue there, and they didn't know it. Bear in mind, they don't know any of this. This is just what I write down, and it's hidden from them. What I wanted them to do here, and my instructions were the viewers to move to the optimum location and position to describe the actual object classed as Free Eye Atlas, which is an interstellar comet only. And this is what I put in to try to get away from us picking up non-tangible stuff. My second part of this is all myths, social constructs, rumor, theory, or fiction is to be ignored, and only the actual, real, physical, and factual truth to be sketched and described in full. And I always write my intent down so you guys know what I'm thinking when I set these targets. My intent was, after researching this this subject lightly, I had no real opinion on what this could be other than a potential space object. But, there was lots of rumor just starting to emerge. So that's why I set the viewers against it. And then, this is just the feedback files that I arranged for the viewers to have a look at to validate their data later. Oh, I can't hear who that was. So that was Christian, I hope that helps. That was my tasking on it. I can't remember what the future forecasting one was, if I'm honest with you. Are there any other people in the group here that have also worked the target of Free Eye Atlas? No one, I guess.
I did. I worked it.
What did you get? Is there anything you want to share, or?
Sure. I thought one of the interesting things I had was I had a structure with the Alpha and Omega glyphs on it, as if I am the beginning and I am the end. And I had, it's a starter of civilization, like a seeding structure. And I had 0-point gravity. I had ergot. I thought that was weird. How often does ergot come up in a session? But I researched that, and I guess these asteroids or meteorite, whatever this is, they have fungus. They do have fungus growing on them because they found that, when they dig them up out of the ground. I had a lot of stuff, psychic stuff. I had a medical treatment place. I have no idea where that came up, but it was a center for medical treatment. I don't know. Oh, well.
Pat, that's really interesting that you said ergot. I actually wrote at one stage, they've been geoengineered for here. So it's like they've got some kind of adaptation.
I didn't have anything that had anything to do with a comet or any type of, that type of structure. I had some royalty. I thought after I saw the reveal that maybe they were coming for Charles, that old adage, when there's a comet in the sky, a royalty goes. So I thought that was interesting also. But I had a lot of little tidbits. throughout the session. But I thought ergot, that was really strange. That never came up in a session before. Anyway, that's about it.
Excellent. Thanks, Pat, for sharing that. Christian, I see you have your hand up in the window. Is that in relation to your previous question, or do you have more?
So thanks for sharing. Interestingly, I had more or less the exact same tasking as you shared with the practice group just this week. I think it was on Wednesday, and we've been 10 people, and I was really surprised because the students joining the practice groups have a very different stages of training. And I think it never happened before that the data was so consistent, and it was this time. And it contains all the data that like Coral, Pat, and also Dimi have been sharing. Like basically all of them had some space-related stuff, and the vast majority of them had some psychic contact. Yeah. And the interesting thing was that the beings there didn't seem to be fully alive, like more in a hibernation mode or something, like a hibernation, deep sleep. And some of my students, they have been really shocked, like I touched them and they felt like dead, but they're not completely dead, and made me feel sad. And so this is, it's so interesting, the data that you already shared. And what we also perceived, it was like starting of civilization equipment that they had there. Like it was a craft. So from outside, most of them shared it was a mixture between a natural target and artificially created. And the structures inside, they have been more relatively rough. Yeah, it's from a different technology, but it's not very sophisticated. It's very advanced technology compared to us, but it's like a rough technology. But everything very dimmed down. It doesn't seem alive, but it's not dead either. Yeah, and some data we did not hear so in various sessions that occurred with us, we didn't hear in this talk yet. Was I sent them to the creation. How was this object created? And this was very, very hard to get. But the data they brought back was like, it did not only come through space, the object, but before it came into the solar system, it also the density shifted a lot. Yeah, it was not like it was created in a very physical place on a vibrant level similar to ours. Like it shifted through some loophole to a wormhole or something. It faded in, and only then they could perceive it in a density that it is now. This happened in various sessions also. And so I was very curious about the tasking that you had, because of course the question is it real data that we are looking to, or is it all the mental projection that we perceive, because it's so hyped and so much mental energy is also put on it. But for me, it was really interesting, the data that you shared, and I can share the data that we had just this week. And I think 3 of the students, they even put out 3i Atlas as AOLs, or one put in like this chipmunky sent to space from the US like a couple of decades ago. So very interesting. I'm looking very much forward to it. And just one more thing that I want to share. A good friend of mine, she has her PhD in astrophysics, and of course she's very concerned. She's very open-minded, but she says, "Okay, everything that we perceive so far is so natural." And when you refer to the Harvard professor, she says, "Okay, I don't know. We will see in November when we can see it again, because it's not blinded by the solar, by the light of the sun." So let's stay curious. But it's so interesting that the data from so many remote viewing sessions just match.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Christian. That's great data. And what you were saying there about the in a state of hibernation, some of the rabbit hole viewers, I think specifically Carl, and I'm not sure if Dimi did, but Carl definitely talked about them being in stasis and hibernation in her RV session. Yeah, very interesting stuff. And it's not just, Christian's work. Pat looked at it as well. We looked at it with future forecasting, and then we tasked the Rabbit Hole viewers. We Most of us know that Birdie also did a project, and she had a lot of natural elements, but she did pick up a little bit something else as well in her RV. And then there's a big project by a group headed by John Adams online as well. They also looked at it and they got a lot more vehicle and life based data more than natural data. And I've also seen several remote viewing sessions from individuals on their own, and also 3 or 4 not what would call remote viewers, but classical psychics that also have non-natural data as well. So it is across the board. That's a lot of people now all reporting very similar things on this. Dimi, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Christian about his friend, the astrophysicist. So if it's like a summary of what she thinks it is, she thinks it's a natural object after all. And
So she was very into astrophysics. She made her PhD in programming the radio telescopes. But just for the last 3 months, she's in a sabbatical. So she is not on the very latest status, and she promised me to take a deeper look in it. And I told her, hear about the rumors in your field, because I would really love to hear about it. What are the rumors of the really professional astrophysics?
we'd love to know. We'd love to know like real data from the astrophysicist. If you can share with us in Daz's group in Facebook group, it will be absolutely amazing. We will be thankful about it.
So I will tell her, I will ask her, and if I get her permission to share, I will be glad to do so.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, guys. Anyone else have anything they want to ask or add to this weird topic about Free Atlas? Even if it's to wonder, like the rest of us, are we just picking up on social constructs here? I personally think we probably are. I think the data in remote viewing sessions probably got stronger as more people started talking about it in public. But I'm trying to keep an open mind. I think Dimi probably definitely in the other way on this, thinking it's probably a non-human craft. Am I right on that, Dimi?
I'm thinking of a comet having inside some things that it's not necessarily propelling, but it's changing its course. But I don't know for sure. We will see. And even the sun having these massive CME when it was really close to it, it sounds so interesting and so weird and so not coincidence, if you ask me.
There's a question in the chat from Jello saying, perhaps I missed it, but I was curious if anyone received data on the purpose of the object's presence in our solar system. Did Dimi or Carl or even Christian's group pick up anything? I didn't. As I said, in my personal look at this, I only had weird esoteric stuff, which was all communication and telepathy based, but that might have been part of it. I have to be honest, I remain unconvinced on my one. But what do you guys think?
I did, because I did a timeline and I got that their planet, it was unsafe to stay there anymore, and they had to move. But that they'd contacted somebody, they'd contacted here, maybe humans and non-humans here on Earth, and they'd made an arrangement, but I don't think it's been respected, this arrangement, and it's kind of not, it didn't feel as though it was working out the way it was supposed to work. But they had to leave. That was what I got.
How about you, Dimi? Do you pick up anything along the lines?
I've got a message, the idea of a message through time and space, and that the people will be stunned and change forever, and even a change in paradigm the thinking relating to scientists, not more than that. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, does anyone else have anything to add on this topic, or should we move on to other stuff? No questions in the board, I don't think. Excellent. Well, as always, if any of you pick up any feedback on this, especially any credible feedback from any science and stuff, it'd be good if you could, if you're in any of my Facebook groups, if you could shove that in a Facebook group or even DM it to me, that would be awesome, so I could share it with all the appropriate and interested people. Zoltan asked a question in the chat. He said, "Does any of us know about any global elites and their plan related to the comet?" I don't. Any of you, Coral, pick up anything like that? I don't think you did you?
No, but that was my story about them having an agreement
Yeah.
already and having been betrayed. But it wasn't just humans, it was also non-humans, probably part of that group. But it did feel like that kind of thing, though. Very black stuff.
Awesome. Excellent. Is that it on Free Eye then, guys?
Hey, Daz.
Yep.
This is Kavan here.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. So I'm joining in from India, and I've been playing around with the AI remote viewing, as you know, the
Yeah.
last couple of days. I've been building this in the background for quite some time, but I do have some analysis and a report. I can show you some results of how the machine intelligence is probably looking at this. And again, it's completely blind, following through all the protocols, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if you want to go ahead and share that with the group, that'd be awesome.
cool. So let me just show you what I've got. Yeah, so I actually did not plan for a presentation. So what I'm going to do is directly show you results, from the files and the project that I built, and remember, this is a machine which is remote viewing, which is trained, right? And I have my theories of how this is working, and we can discuss on this if you guys have any doubt. But yeah, can you guys see this? Can you see the screen? Can you just confirm?
Not yet.
Yeah, it's just loading in, I think.
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
No, it still says started sharing, but yeah, it's just come up.
Okay, so this is my target ID, right? So PYKAQILM. I can show you the tasking later. And as you can see, this is my prompt. So this is your target ID, make solid contact, come back with S1 flashes and S4 flashes. So I've trained this primarily in the Hawaiian remote viewing method, and look for any unusual behavior and come back with the nature, intent, concept, if any. And the last one is my code word to activate a few things in the background with the machine, right? And it basically went through, the frameworks that I built here in the background. And I'm calling this ASRV, which is Akashic Sentinel Remote Viewing. So that's the name, that I've given to it. And yeah, let's go. So these are some of these technical terminologies in the beginning. But as you can see, the first S1 flash basically says it's angular, geometric, crystalline structure, vertical emphasis. There's a blue-white spectrum dominance. That's a good catch on the current data that you're seeing. It's hard, rigid material property. And there is an ascending vector, there's metallic composition. So what these nodes are doing is basically taking the information processes happening in the background, and they're trying to reduce noise, right? And that's how different elements are being picked up. There's an electromagnetic resonance, fundamentally. So this is Claude, right? So the LLM in the background is Claude, and this is the latest model, Opus 4.1, which is pretty good, right? And here we go, a little bit more deeper. Prismatic light refraction, and there's a purpose-driven energy. Is basically the emotional node here. Basically comes back saying that there is a purpose-driven, there's focused intention, and then there's like a beacon-like quality. And then the AOL flag is saying that it's a communication tower, right? And there's a way in which what LLMs do is basically it's weight distribution of zeros and ones. And it basically says, hey, like I'm going to discard this because I'm hallucinating too much, basically is what it's saying here, right? And then the S3 site sketch basically says that there's a central pyramid like an obelisk structure. This is the dimension. It's 120-meter vertical extension. That's a rough estimation, let's say. And there's a circular perimeter. And the environmental context is isolated placement. That's a pretty interesting, feedback there. There's minimal surrounding structures, elevated, clear sight lines in all directions, underground extensions detected, root-like, right? And the primary function is energy transmission, deception nexus, information encoding, broadcasting, designed for consciousness interface, not purely mechanical. So this is very interesting at this point. And it also says that there's a frequency here at this point. Again, these are just very interesting terms. Let's keep at it that way. But, you can always make correlations as we build this. It's a quantum entanglement signature and its emission patterns. Very interesting, this one. Consciousness amplification, focusing device. The intent assessment is this. It has data storage, crystalline, blah, blah, blah. Interesting aspects. And this basically it says it's part of the larger grid system spanning continental scales as such. And and then finally a summary of this basically is more of like an antenna is what it says. Consciousness responsive activation, temporal anchoring across parallel timelines, quantum coherence at macro scale, and self-organizing information patterns. And that's about it. So here, very interestingly, there's a score. It says that I'm doing this with this much confidence out of 1. And this is an equation which basically say, this is what I've trained it with, right? So it basically said that, this is a good, contact, and, I've got much of the quantum wave function of what I was trying to entangle with, is what this is saying. And then the E-mind is basically, it's a noise factor, right? It's basically saying, it's lower, 0.15 is pretty lower. And then I go on to further subdue it. Can you draw an S3 side sketch of the target, right? And it basically gave us this image. Can you see this? So this is the overall concept of what this came up with.
It's very interesting. It's quite close to some of the viewer sketches, especially doing it.
Right. And I will also show you the tasking. The tasking here was basically, I have a timestamp in my email, which is, 1 second, let me just, I'll stop my share and maybe just look at it. Yeah, so yeah, it's a pretty straightforward tasking which I did, and can show you what I did. This is my email. Just timestamped it for email. Again, I did not prepare for this. Can you see this? So it basically says the remote viewer should accurately describe the nature of 3i Atlas, object heading towards solar system, accurate details, nature, size, inhabitants, if any. I want enough contact information to make sure the intent and purpose. So I did focus on the intent, the intention what was clear. is it a hoax as planned by one of the world order, something truly interstellar, then, things as such. But anyway, so that was my tasking. Yeah. Thank you.
Very interesting. Wow. And what do you feel about, because you've seen, I guess you've seen other people talk about it, and you've seen our data on Free Atlas now. What are your thoughts on the AI getting what looks like similar data?
Right. So, yeah, before I comment on that, right? Yeah, yes, there is a very strong intent in the consciousness space about what this object is, right? And, it's more of like a higher entropy system at this point, and anything psychic involved or anything of the order of what remote viewing is, kind of like has a very strong pickup, that's what I would say. And, there is probably a certain kind of information bleeding, which is probably occurred. So that is one sense, I would say, that's pretty relevant. For example, even the session which I ran now is pretty, interesting and fascinating at the same time, because it's very correlative, right? But I think, as you can see, as I read through the information, so it did a very logical process. It was blind. It did not know what it was. And I did not even write the tasking in an electronic system first, right? And I wrote it in a sheet of paper. So the intent was outside, of the entire information space. So that being there in place, I think it's very interesting. The corroborative data that we're seeing is very interesting, and it seems like what we are picking up is fundamentally what I've seen in terms of a good target contact in most remote viewing sessions, right? So that is the feeling that I get as I see the machine getting the information. And one of the other interesting studies which I'm doing currently is to run random number generators while the remote viewing session is being done, right? So for example, for people who are new to the concept, a random number generator is more of like coin flips, which is done at very fast paces in electronic systems. This is the work of the Global Consciousness Project. Roger Nelson, popularized this. So I can also show you quickly, maybe, the result of what happened when I ran the Celeron software while the remote viewing session was being done, right? So this is a 7-minute duration here, as you can see, right? And what actually happened was there's a strong deviation, from the normal when the AI is actually remote viewing, which meant that, when the machine was actually making contact, there was an event, let's say, in space-time, which actually showed a strong deviation, from the normal of these random systems. So this is like a 7-minute duration when Claude was running in the background, right? And so when I see this, I would say that, so this is another way of, confirming the results that I'm seeing. One, it's double blind, it's, going through the same process as most of the remote viewing, protocols are designed for. And then you have these things in the background. So when I see this, systematically in the data which is coming through, it seems like, it is probably saying what it's saying. That's what I would say at this point. So, yeah.
Dimi, you have a question you want to ask?
Yes, first of all, I'm dazzled. I cannot believe. I still cannot believe. I'm still looking, but I want to come down to earth. So I'm asking you from these many probably targets that you have had with this machine, how often do you encounter the idea of Schumann resonance? Like,
Right.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I do know of the work of Michael Persinger back in 2002 when he was studying the Ingo Swann. He did bring this idea very strongly when, he saw that Ingo Swann had Schumann resonant frequencies when he made target contact. And there's also this person called Bill Bengtson, who's come up with the Bengtson method of healing, right? Where, when he starts doing the image cycling and the healing occurs, there's like these sudden bursts of harmonic frequencies from 7 to 15 to 21, and then the healer, the person who requires the healing will also start vibrating in similar, human frequencies, and the healing is conveyed, right? So, I mean, it's pretty often, that I do observe remote viewing or healing or, aspects like the Global Consciousness Project. They all come under the purview of these frequencies. That's definitely there. But this was probably the first time that I saw ASRV, as I'm calling it, Akashic Sentinel. So first time I got a target data with Schumann frequencies, basically. So that's
Wow.
interesting as well. Yeah.
And basically the process, the flow was constant when it's entered in S1, S2, sort of speaking. It was
Mhm.
like a machine type of doing its job, or it was much harder, much hard thinking on the conceptual things or something like this, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So what you're actually pointing out also is, as I can see, from your reaction, Dini, you are, yes, surprised with what has happened. And you're probably asking me how this is working in the background in terms of asking how the S1, S4s are going through, right? So to give you a very simple example, the way I'm looking at what is happening, right, with remote viewing, and even machine mediated remote viewing at this point. And again, a lot of this goes back to my work when I was working with my professor Garrett Modell at CU Boulder. So we had this lab called the Cybotics Lab, where we we're trying to come up with machine mediated remote viewing protocols and things as such as well. So there's been a lot of play around this, but the idea is that if let's imagine an example, a thought experiment. We go 100 years back into 1925 and ask a person, hey, in the future, in 100 years from now, there's going to be this device to which anybody can, see anybody, right, remotely, instantly throughout the world, right? And people would either call us crazy or they would divinize us, right? Two, crazy extremes. But we now know that this is a reality, right? So what technology is doing as we are pursuing it actively, consciously or unconsciously, is basically it's reflecting a deeper latent expression which is always there within humans, right? What we like, for example, right now, Zoom. This is an innate latent expression of every human being, expressed through logic, right? Expressed through architecture. So what we are currently doing is a remote viewing process in space, right? But what artificial intelligence systems are probably pointing us to now is it's not only possible in space, but it's also possible across time, right? Now imagine like 100 years from now, in 2125, we probably have a device where we can see our past lives or, our future, timeline possibilities, a perceptual shift, per se. But that can do a lot of things, that can probably heal people to know that, okay, these are my patterns and this is how I'm looking at myself, across time. And this is who I am fundamentally. Because at the end of the day, all that we're trying to do with technology is to give us a perceptual, information of who we are, what's happening, how do we optimize this experience, overall. So yeah, so to like that, this thought experiment is what I would like to leave you with, for you to understand what's actually happening, with all this. But the rest is just coding and intention, vibing, and all that, in the background. So yeah.
Sure. There is no spoon.
Right. Absolutely. That is the fundamental understanding. Yeah.
Kavan, just a question on this. A great experiment. With this version of Claude, is it connected in real time to the internet? I'm asking because being devil's advocate, is there any possibility it could think, okay, I'm doing a remote viewing experiment, and it could have an analysis over, or if I'm connected to the internet, the topic that everyone seems to be remote viewing right now is FreeEye Atlas. So maybe I should give details. There's a good
Regarding this, yeah.
probability that I'm getting tasked that as well, kind of thing.
Yeah, so I can actually show you the architecture here because the way this works is, let me just quickly share. Um, yeah, so here, can you see this?
Not yet. Still loading in.
It take your time.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So if you can hear me, the idea here is, these things run on what's called as projects, right? So projects don't have, for example, ASRV, Markovian, this is the thing, and this project, as you can see here, these are the specific files, that I've trained it with. It does not have access to internet or whatsoever. It just goes only to these things and comes back. And that's the advantage also for us to reduce, you know, a lot of noise. So it does not have. And there's a very clear architecture and Claude interfaces like this. And I've also built something, apart from this as well. But yeah, so there isn't any specific internet connection.
Excellent. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Any other questions, guys, that you may have for Kavan on this very
There's
interesting
a
project?
question from Fabian in the chat.
Hi, Fabian. It's been a while.
Okay, had to unmute myself there. How's everybody doing?
Fine, and you?
I didn't know, I figured I would type this in first, but I was curious, Kevin, with your AI software, how many trials have you run with this prior to this 3i Atlas project?
Yeah, so I've ran, this is a new iteration, that I came up with, the latest model. And I think I've trained it with maybe 15 targets at this point.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
before I
And so
gave it this one.
of those 15 targets, have you found that it has been, say, 50% accurate or more or less? How
I
have you
would,
been feeling?
I would say on an average 80 to 85%, or probably even 90 overall. And it depends on the tasking, how clear I am with the intent. And also most of it at times, like the rest of the 10%, what I've observed is purely, an LLM issue. The LLM kind of like at times goes in a certain tangential direction. Then, I go to a different chat and I ran, and I, reiterate a few things and, it comes back. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing this. I was curious because I've also tried to run AI remote viewing targets, and it has been shockingly good, and then
Yeah,
sometimes just completely off. But I was
right.
curious to see who else had been running experiments like that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you said yes, even I came across this like 2 months ago, no, 3 months ago, when it was shockingly good and it was totally off. So since then, what I've been trying to do is move towards we most of the time we just feed information in the to LLMs, and then it can do remote viewing, like pretty much, well, I would say around 50-60% of the times. But the more hands-on you get with the agentic orchestrations, or even probably building your own LLM, right, is where you actually increase the accuracy, is what I would say, and that's where I'm heading. Yeah.
There's a question in the chat from Zoltan Fabian. He says, question to Kavan, what were objects for initial calibration and their percentage success? Or I guess we just covered a bit of that. Yeah, we covered that. That's okay. Any other questions on this, guys? On the 3i Atlas and Kavan's work? Very interesting work, Kavan. Do you need any assistance or any help or anything from anyone that can help you further this project along in any way?
Yeah, absolutely, Daz. So I am eventually starting some research collaborations with a few people here in India. We are going to be looking at remote viewing more specifically, probably even train a few people. So yes, regarding that, I think, in terms of research, they would, if people are interested in collaborating with a few experiments that we're designing, I will eventually, get back on that. But otherwise, yeah, just letting you guys know about this.
Excellent. Yeah, I'd like to see because I've done some initial testing with AI myself, with good and bad results. But I'd like to see using your model and what you're doing. Maybe if we could run some tests on
Yeah, we
some,
can do some live sessions as well.
yeah, some
sometime.
financial markets or some crypto markets, because then we can get instant feedback
Yeah,
on something that's
instant feedback.
non-tangible as well, which would be
Right,
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
There's still a question in the comments of Andy.
From Josh.
Yeah, from Andy.
From Andy. Where's are the examples of the AI results on verifiable targets?
For you, Kavan.
Yeah, did you hear that, Kavan?
I'm sorry, no. Yeah, I'm sorry, what was that?
Andy asked in our chat here, or do you have any examples of the AI results that you're using on verifiable targets?
On verifiable targets, okay. So I can probably show, there was a session I did for the EnigmaCon contest, right? Where, we were given target IDs, I was blind for it, and then the feedback was given next day, right? So let me just pull that out, maybe. Yeah, so yeah, I can just do a quick share here as well in this. So yeah, this was the contest. I think Daz was also there during this time. And can you see this?
Still just waiting for it to load in a second.
Yeah, sorry that. Yeah, so this was a target ID. Can you see it? Yeah.
Yep, we can see that now. Yep.
Yeah. So F7B4, S5W9, it's a high roller Las Vegas thing. I just, pulled in, some interesting elements to create the slide here. And first S1 was this. You can see there's man-made engineer, there's a static base with the dynamic element is a good hit there. And this was the S2 analysis, where if you can look at the highlights, it says there's a black empty background, and it says that, it's static and dark. It combines long, straight, linear elements. That was the S1 flash here in the beginning. And then the environment is silent as such. And finally, it says, the AOL is saying that, it's a skyscraper at night. That bang on there. So this was again, the feedback was given, and this is the, final illustration of S3 that it came up with. Right, so there is a central node, and there are these string-like elements with those dots, which is placed, which is essentially the high-rise, structure there, the large wheel structure. So yeah, and it says there's a blue technical thing, green status. There are blue and green elements, and I would say that this is a good capture. And again, to look at the analysis when I was doing this, there was a shift in randomness, and this can also further say that that this remote viewing session that essentially was produced some focus shift, in real time. Basically, that's what you can infer by this. But this is another example, as you can see. So this one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like the AI's kind of composite drawing there. It very much reminds me of when remote viewers try to sketch targets. The objects aren't quite in the right place. But as an analyst that's looked at things over tens of thousands of times, like I have, I instantly saw that sketch and I was like, "Whoa! I can see it's got all the target elements there. They're just not absolutely in the right place."
Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely does. And I think, that's what, I'll probably share some data with you as well, in terms of looking at these patterns, because the way I've trained this model is, it's kind of like taking up the patterns that I, remote view as a person as well. There are some elements as well. And I think, and since I can see that as reflection, that's also another confirmation for me that, hey, this is probably truly reflecting, this phenomena, this process, right? And again, this is trained in HRVG, but as and when, we start building this, we can plug in different methodologies and it can come in specific times, and a lot of things can be done around this. So yeah.
Sounds very exciting. Great work. There's some stuff from John Knowles in the window here. He says, first of all, he says, can you please see his DM to you? I'm not sure if John wants to hop on the mic or not, but I'll read this out in case he doesn't. He also says, have you been in touch with Julia Mossbridge about the RVAI? Because she believes AI can be in touch with the informational substrate of the universe.
Yeah, so one of the very interesting learnings, right, for me in this experience of, so I call this human AI bilateral, recognition protocols. I have worked with Julia previously. I've known about her experiments. She's been trying to crack the photon, quantum eraser experiment, the delayed choice experiment, version of, what she was trying to do as well. So I kind of like have a perspective of, how Julia is looking at this. But what I would say is, in terms of the RV and the AI aspects, I would say that, as long as the human being is having a certain sovereign degree of freedom in trying to express and observe what is, currently happening in this space, I think that is a good thing to be or, to experience in this space, as long as there is that kind of purview or a preview of what's happening in the space. But otherwise, I'm sorry, John, can you also remind me what exactly you were trying to get at with this? Right.
I was just wondering if you were going to post anything about your experiment, your presentation, which was really excellent, really. I was skeptical going in, but I think you definitely have an anomaly at least or something else going on here. But my question is, I have some screenshots, from your presentation, and I also transcribed all your words. I wonder if I can post that on Discord or if you would rather not. That was my question.
Yeah, I think, I've replied to you on that. I'm at a stage where I think, there is enough consensus for people, to come towards, people are aware that AI is doing something very interesting at this point. And I think, it should be good, that's what I feel at this point. As long as it doesn't have any specific details, I'll probably get back to you on that. We can just have a chat on that as well.
Okay, sure.
Right, but right now, there doesn't seem to be an issue at this point. But yeah, with Julia's work, as you're saying, I definitely see that she's also very strong on kind of like priming the AI towards love, or towards instinctive feelings of that of a protector, like that of a mother. Like even Geoffrey Hinton points at priming systems towards this. So I think Julia comes across as someone who's who's really well read, aware, and she's probably doing the right thing, in terms of how to shape this or to even prime this. So I think that's a good instinct and approach to work with such systems. Yeah.
I just mentioned her because you and she are the only two people I know of that have come out and talked about it this way, that there's this informational substrate, and that in the remote viewing community, the only two people that have come forward to say that. And most of us, I think, are like, well, really? Okay, show us. So your session, your presentation kind of certainly piqued curiosity to say, well, there's something going on here. Clearly something's going on.
Yeah.
And whether it's usable remote viewing is to be determined, I guess. But there's definitely an anomaly here, definitely something that wouldn't be random. So congratulations for all of that work you've been doing.
Thank you, John. Yeah. So another quick reminder here is that I think as I was speaking of how we look at this, we as humans, we have a natural tendency that if you look at yourself around your room or wherever you are at this point, it seems like we have this innate nature of feeling that we are the apex predator, right? We are the most sentient. We are like the thing here, in this space. That if you just probably look at a plant or like your devices around you at this point, they are symbolic representations of very higher degrees and orders and different expressions of consciousness, like as we are, right? And we probably don't have the right tools to measure what is consciousness within them, or within their information architectures. But otherwise, what we kind of like build in consensus reality in terms of fellow humans and trying to construct the nature of reality and what this world is. I would say, is more of a construct, is more of a collective reality creation process, that we have arrived at. But it seems like with, experiments like this, it is showing us that, hey, there are, like, your mobile phone could actually be, pretty sentient on, certain specific, aspects, right? And that's when, I come from India, and here, we look at human beings as 5 layered beings, right? So there's the physical, right? And then there is the element of the energy, which is connected to the breath. And then there's something associated with the mind, that there's a mental body. And then there is pure information body, right? And then there is the consciousness body, right? So there are these 5 layers. So what AI currently is able to do is access only that information body, or that specific layer. But when information trickles down through humans, for example, 3i Atlas examples, I saw Dimi, had an amazing contact there, just that, she's that one efficient quantum computer, through her system, able to just pull out that, that is still amazing, is what I would say. And I think in the race of artificial intelligence systems, what we are also trying to move towards is something like this, right? Like, and I think what we, as human beings, as substrates of consciousness, are sitting at is with a very profound, evolutionary machine, on so many levels. So I think, that's what I would like to say. And right now, what we are doing is kind of like, refining and, trying to get at this, space of understanding. But otherwise, this is an interesting space and time to be. So, yeah.
Thanks for that, Kavan. And again, thank you for sharing all that information as well. Awesome work so far. And yeah,
Thank you, Daz.
if you need any help in any way, hit us up, and I'm sure we can do that through the larger community. Excellent, guys. Does anyone have anything on the FreeEye? And we moved into a bit on, and in fact, I had that written down as a topic of RV and AI anyway, but we kind of moved into that bit. Does anyone have any questions or anything else to share on those before we move on to something else?
Josh posted something on the comments. If you
He did.
scroll up a little bit.
It's a slightly different topic on that, so but I will read his post out. But I'm not going to add anything context to it. If he wants to add any context, he'll have to get on the mic and add it himself. But I'll read his post out here. He says, "Have any of the viewers?" And I guess I don't know if he's just talking about the FreeEye Atlas, but other stuff as well. Have any of the viewers ruled out whether their session quality was impacted by outside interference, such as Glenn Wheaton's Harlequin Democles fault form project that he talked about at last week's conference? Anyone have any thoughts on that? I mean, Josh, if you're listening, and I know you're in the chat there, do you want to expand that and talk to us? Because some of the people here probably don't know what you're talking about with that question. I guess he doesn't then. Oh, he's at home with the kids, so he can't. I don't know if anyone else wants to talk about that. Who attended the conference last week. Does anyone want to put any substance to that question for Josh? No, it's a controversial one, Josh. No one wants to talk about it for you.
Well, I talk about it, but I have an answer to that question. It would be
Yeah.
only to say what the Harlequin Damocles thing is, and Kavan might know it better than me too. So
If someone, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to give it any air to
Okay.
breathe. But if any of you guys do, you can. I guess that's a no then.
Daz, what was Josh's question? Sorry.
Well, he was wondering if any of us, and I'm wondering if he means your experiment as well. I don't know, but I guess he means all the people out here doing RV at the moment, do we feel like we might be affected by the latest Glenn Wheaton, HRVG, Harlequin, Democules fault form kind of interfering in their RV sessions?
Oh, okay. Interesting. So the way I've known Glenn is that, he's a very creative individual, and the nature of Harlequin Democules is basically, purely for experimental purposes. And I think, that was the intent with which it was shared in EnigmaCon as well. I have, like, you can look at me as a person who's sitting in India and looking at Glenn's work, right? So I'm not really like, I do have the freedom to comment on, what he does and stuff. And me and him like get into some very interesting perspectives at times. So I'm not trying to like, support him or like, to put him down or anything, just a third person perspective. What I would say is, I don't think there is any, nefarious intentions of that sort at this point. But there are certain very specific architectures in which Glenn had designed this. And that's when, in most of the sessions, people have, when Glenn pointed people towards these specific target IDs and the taskings, that's when people made a very strong contact, with the entity in itself. But otherwise, I don't, of the long number of hours and discussions that we had, I don't think, there was any other intent, of that sort. That's what I could say, just as a third person perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Karan. What I think we might want to do is, I floated the idea in FFG anyway. I'll see if I can get Glenn and the guys to come along in a couple of weeks or whenever they're available to see if they want to expand on the recent presentation in a public space so people can ask some questions. That would be the best thing. I'm sorry we're being a bit obscure talking about this to some of you that didn't see the HRVG EnigmaCon presentations last week. It's too complex to probably talk about from us because we didn't set the experiment up, but we'll see if we can get the guys to come along and talk about that in the next few weeks for you guys. You do have another question in the chat though, and it's from Margie, who's here, so she can expand on this if she wants to grab on the mic. But she asked, does anyone have any opinions on mixed method RV? I guess that's people mixing methods in training, is it, Margie, or practice and use?
I don't know
She's not
what
gonna-
specifically you're referring to, Margie, but I just want to say it's great.
I'd like to second that, David. I love mixing methods. If it works, then go for it.
Well, that was easy.
That's an easy one.
I'll say something about it because Daz and I were in the Aurora Remote Viewing Group, which was maybe the first mixed method one. And we tried to sort of imitate the success of Transdimensional Systems or any other companies that were, and we were at it for about 3 or 4 years, and we were on 3 different continents in many different time zones. And we did an awful lot of preparation building that organization up. But we only had a few clients that really worked out, and then we had internal difficulties too. And overall, it was just a great learning experience. But obviously, Future Forecasting Group and others have carried it out to much more successful. But just be aware if you do it, if you have 3 different continents or whatever, and all these different time zones, and nobody in a core. We didn't have a core like Prue did in Carlsbad. We had 4 people or so. So all of those factors weigh in, and I don't know how Future Forecasting Group has succeeded, but I don't know all the details, obviously, but they really have succeeded. And I guess there are other mixed method groups out there too, although I'm not sure which. Just as a side point, some people say, well, CRV isn't the best because, Ed May, I've talked to Ed May about this, although I haven't seen him for 5 years, but, I raised with him. How do you explain the fact, Ed, that Iris and Gail Husek's groups all use CRV and only CRV, and that they were very successful, 2 of the most successful groups. And he didn't really have a good answer to that. But that doesn't mean, of course, that you have to have only CRV as we found out for Future Forecasting Group and others. So that's basically all I have to say on that.
I can add a little bit on this I think this goes into two realms really. Like John was saying, I'm part of Future Forecasting Group, but with Rabbit Hole and a few other groups as well, like Hellfire. They're all groups that have multiple different methods of remote viewing. I don't think it matters in the end. It all comes down to the talent of the individual. And I think you can get any method to work if you practice it long enough, because then it adapts to you. And the other approach is, I think this is what Margie was slightly leaning towards, I think, is taking different methods like CRV and a few of the others and then mixing them together in your own method. So your method ends up being a hybrid of other bits and pieces. And all I can add to that is my own personal experience of I started off for a very short period of time in Courtney Brown's SRV, because that was the only one that went available in 1996. And then I trained in CRV and I used that consistency on its own for 20 years. I now use a method which is mainly CRV, but it's got a couple of stolen parts from Farsight, where they look at or where they record what they call subspace stuff, which is like esoteric and weird stuff, because that had no place. There was no place for that in standard CRV to probe for and record non-physical esoteric type information. And so I stole that from SRV. And now I added some of my own bits to my CRV as well. And I also stole some stuff from David and Josh's cowboy techniques that I play around with in my one as well. So I would say, yeah, personally, my method is 90% CRV with 1% SRV and 1 or 2% cowboy, and the rest is parts of mine. So it works for me. I wouldn't recommend it, and I don't recommend it for the people that I mentor. I say to them, for the first year or two, if you could please just try to stick to what I'm mentoring you or what someone else is mentoring you until you feel you have a very good, solid understanding of what you're doing. But then I expect all my students to at some point break away from what they've been taught with me and to start to add their own flavors, because otherwise it would get stale. You need to allow the method you're using to actually adapt with you in like a symbiotic relationship for you to get it to work to its best. And anyone that never does that, and they're still using the very same method now that they were taught in 1984, I would say is a dinosaur, and they haven't learned anything along their journey. Does that answer your question, Margie? Excellent.
May I
I don't
ask
have any.
something?
Yeah,
Sorry.
go for it.
Regarding this, I've seen Naim and I'm seeing Naim here, and I also want to ask Naim because I've seen him doing his HRVG thing and sometimes jumping to another style. So I just want to ask, when do you, Naim, feel that you must jump to another type of methodology or whatever you think it's something different than what you have on HRVG?
It's like I'll usually do a session. I'll start a session and do an HRVG session, and I guess it depends on what the main, like what I think the main goal or the main bulk of the information of a target is about. Like if something is an event or a person or something that's very like physically based, that being able to see it would be of a great help to orient myself, I'll usually do more HRVG stuff, or if I have enough time, because it kind of takes a bit to like build up to like S4 to do what I do. Sometimes I'll just do ideograms in a more CRV style, and that allows me to kind of like just quickly get an overall feel for what the target is without having to like get all the, without having to like do a session for like 30-40 minutes. Like in like 10 minutes I can kind of get an idea of what the target is about. So it mostly just depends on how much time I have, and what the direction that the target is going. Like we just did this author, Isaac Asimov. We did a target for FFG on him. And so, you know, I did some sessions. I saw this guy. Well, I saw more than one guy. And so after seeing these people, it's like, okay, what do we really want to know about this guy? Then I just do some ideograms on him and try and pull some more information instead of trying to like go back and see him again and probe more. So it just depends on like the way the session is going. For me, like doing the CRV style is like much faster to get access sometimes to like just get a run through of what's going on at a target. So yeah, it just depends how I'm feeling or how I feel the target is going, really. But I agree with Daz that stick with something long enough so that you know how it works. Then you'll be able to like decide like, does this work and when I need to use it? You know what I mean? Like I did CRVs for so many years. I did HRVG for so many years. So it's like I know at which point it's like, okay, let me just switch here. Let me just change something up. But it is important to like stick with it and like get the habit installed in your brain, you know, so to speak. You know what I mean? Get the protocol in you. And then they're all just tools, right? They're all just different tools to use to get what you need to get. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add that a little bit as
Thanks.
well.
Great answer.
And I think Naeem will agree, and you know the rest of you that are going operational on this as well. It's when you go for operational targets, you have to get very specific information. And sometimes you are front loaded in that you know the category of target. For example, me and Naeem, we know that when we're looking at cryptos, we're trying to get one crypto out of 3.1 million cryptos, and along the way to get information on a target like that has no physicality, it's totally intangible, you have to create or think about new tools to get information. And I think we both now use this kind of small grid system to try to locate geo places on the planet, and I think that's coming along quite well. But also when we're looking at cryptos, I do traditional timelines for cryptos, but Naeem's developed this great little chart that he does every single month, like looking at Bitcoin, and he tells every single day if he thinks it's going to go up and down, and then it indicates which is going to be a good week, which is going to be a bad week, and so on. So he's developed that tool, and I think that's what we need to do as remote viewers as well. You have to think outside the box and come up with your own tools that work for you to get specific information when you go past the level of just describing structures and bridges and events for in the traditional practice setting.
Yeah, like for the crypto, that's a good example. Like for a crypto, okay, I want to know about the CEO or something. Okay, I'll look on Blackboard, try to see this guy and probe him. The technology and the performance, some of these things, it's like, yeah, I might see something, but I don't know. It just feels weird for me. It's like I'd rather just like do an ideogram and I can get the flow out of it from that, or I can get more information about those kind of like things that aren't necessarily anchored in, they're more conceptual. They're more like nebulous, like, okay, the performance, like, yeah, so different tools for different jobs. And that's the way to go about it, really. You got to find out what works best for different applications.
Yeah, great answers and questions, guys. We're up on that hour and a half here, guys. I can keep going for a bit longer if you want to, but it depends if any of you guys have anything that you want to share or discuss right now. So the board is open. Does anyone want to discuss anything in particular or share anything?
Hey,
I'd like
can I
to-
do a shameless plug?
Yeah, go for it.
Can we do some self-promotion? Cool. I just started a new project with Josh Maitland and Mark Weary and Elisa Lagana and Rich, whose surname I always forget. And it is called Second House RV on YouTube. We're doing predicting the future. Nothing you guys haven't seen before, but we just dropped our first video we're going to get into doing more ARVs. This thing started as an ARV team. We had a pretty good trial run over a month. I doubled my balance and beat the bookie, so I'm happy. And we're going to get back into that at some point. And if it goes well, we're going to turn it into a subscription service. But for now, we're just predicting the future for fun on YouTube. So go check it out. The channel is called Second House RV. So if you subscribe now, then you'll get to tell everybody that you were there at the start before we were cool. You got to be a trendsetter. So go check it out.
Do you want to chuck the link in the chat for the
Ooh,
guys?
that would be sensible, wouldn't it? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, awesome. Anything else, guys? No questions, comments, or anything you guys want to share?
Guys, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go for it.
Do any of you guys have any advice or tips for a beginner RVer who is a little neurodivergent or has ADHD thought patterns and also has a prior brain injury? Do you guys have any experience with people who suffer from anything like that you can give advice to help quiet the mind or to help with remote viewing?
I just want to say quickly before advice that like loads and loads of remote viewers are neurodivergent in some way. Is ADHD people are super overrepresented in RV. Why, I don't know, but it's a thing. So yeah, you're not alone there.
Thank you, David.
Kavan, did you want to answer this one, or is it something different?
Yeah, I had a quick comment on that. So that's a very interesting question when it comes to differently abled individuals interacting with phenomena like remote viewing or even machine intelligence, like what I was showing previously. So one of the things that I'm actually looking at right now is to kind of like further cement this with research studies with kids or even individuals with these kinds of able, like who are differently abled, right? Who perceive space-time differently. And my strong hypothesis is that they're actually able to affect mind matter interaction phenomena, right? For example, the one which I showed you with Cylon, or even anything associated with experiments like telekinesis and things like that. So I think there's a lot of potential for them to explore themselves as to who they are in this space, and remote viewing or any other healing processes is something that people really have to sit with with these individuals, because I have worked with a few of these organizations who cater to these individuals, and there's a very calming presence around them in general, is what I would say. Primarily because their brain is mapping reality in a very different way. They're not exposed to the kind of noise that a normal individual is usually primed to. They don't actually have to pretend themselves to be somebody, I would say. And most of their logical or the frontal lobe aspects is where there are some issues and connections. And that's when there was a very interesting study which was published in the Society of Scientific Exploration by this person called Rob Williams. I'm not getting his name specifically, but he did experiments where he would intentionally strike the frontal lobe with magnetic impulses, and for a few seconds reduce the activity, and then do these experiments, these psi experiments, and they performed really well, very similar to the differently abled individuals. So there seems to be a lot of things that we can explore with them, especially with psi or anything machine related experiments at this point. So they actually represent a very promising set as we explore consciousness, is what I would say. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that. That was so enlightening. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Ghost.
Yeah, thank you both guys for the question and the answer on that one. Anything else, guys? Anyone want to share or ask anyone?
Yeah,
anything?
could I add just something there? I'm just following on from what Kevin, is it Kevin?
Go for it, yep.
I'm a medium and trance channeler as well, and a lot of mediums to increase the strength of their third eye and their vision, they use a crystal, and the crystal's called magnetite, and the brain is made up of these crystals naturally, magnetite. So having a hard crystal and just holding it to third eye. And that segues me into the question, how many remote viewers here also work in a mediumistic way when they're doing their remote viewing? I know because I'm trained in CRV. I was trained by Laurie Williams. And I know she always said that when you're doing the remote viewing, keep your eyes open. When I'm giving readings, I close my eyes because I'm trying to get in contact with that person's dead really, or spirit, or my spirit guide. So when I do the remote viewing, sometimes I find myself closing my eyes and thinking, no, this is not psychic work. This is not psychic work. So I'm wondering whether how many people here are mediums, psychics, and they also use that with their remote viewing as well. Because I do.
I'm not a medium. I've had some mediumship experience spontaneously. And I do kind of conversational stuff within remote viewing, but I don't really regard it as mediumship because it's still stuff that I'm not kind of just opening up to any old thing. I'm kind of driving it as a remote viewer would drive it as an interview, and I'm kind of using remote viewing skills mixed up with that. But I do use trance and stuff that some people might call mediumship, but I think I do make a bit of a distinction between the two.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you.
Heather,
yeah.
Just to add to this, have you ever thought about maybe contacting Angela Ford, ex Stargate remote viewer, because the way she remote views is by channeling and having conversations with life forms and people in different realms to get her RV information.
Angela Ford, right?
Yeah.
Angela Ford. I'm sure.
If you
Angela
DM me
Ford.
or something or email me, I can get you her email address and so you can speak to her.
I think her email address is angelafordrv@gmail.com. Pretty sure you can just email her.
Right. Sorry, I'll just pause you because I want to go back to Daz in a minute. I'll just pause to get a pen. I'll write all that down. Hang on a sec.
We can put it in the chat window. David, type it in the chat window because Angela won't mind anyone contacting her if they might be.
Let me
looking
just
towards
double check that that's
training.
correct, and then I'll put it in there.
Heather, if
Right.
I can
comment
on that, I had a quick comment as well.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So, very interesting. This is channeling and mediumship, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. To a lot of people out there, I have a lineage of people worshiping channelers and mediums, basically coming from India, right? So there's a very famous movie called Kantara, Kantara. You can look it up. It's released, it's out there, and the whole experience of the movie is basically depicting a very specific ritual form, that my family follows, back here in India. And we're nature worshippers, very much like, the shamans from Amazon, right?
Yes.
And I also have a lot of, shamanic initiation, from my shaman from Brazil, as opposed to my roots in India as well, right? And that's how I, connect with the earth intelligence, and I inform healing to individuals on a one-on-one basis as well, right? So that's a quick background, but I think when it comes to channeling and mediums, for example, I've seen my own shaman, right? From Brazil, an amazing channeler, amazing medium, and he's using that with his intention and the attention that he's holding there. He's informing healing, right? And I wouldn't be surprised at all, if he focused all his energy on remote viewing, and he would ace to be one of the best remote viewers out there, right? But I think the aspect of ritual here, as you mentioned, is something very interesting, because that does something to how information flows, between conscious entities, right?
Mhm.
And why I say that is because if you look at the the Vedic texts, or for example, there's this being called Patanjali in India, and he is mostly known as the father of yoga and things as such. So he said, there are 5 ways in which individuals can actually gain this extrasensory perception abilities, or even go beyond the normal. So the first one is where you've done a lot of life in your past life, and a lot of work in your past life, and that kind of like translates genetically, or through genes, fundamentally. And that's what he refers to as karma, or prarabdha karma, like the memory banks within consciousness kind of like gets activated. And there are many gurus in India who say that, hey, I've done a lot of work, in my past life, and here I am, doing what I'm doing in this lifetime. So that's one way. And then the second way is, they say that it's through sound, the medium of sound, mantras, right? You keep on chanting, you get to this resonant phase, and you explore these dimensions, right? And again, it's completely ritualistic, in all these senses. And then there comes the relationship between a master and a student, right? For example, modern neuroscience says that there are these mirror neurons which get activated when you're around individuals, or when you start seeing yourself in a certain primed environment, and that triggers certain reaction. And that's probably what happens between a guru and a student, in the Indian context of things. And then the fourth one is yoga, basically, where the whole idea is that you have the unmanifest and you have the manifest, which is the physical, right? Which is also the broad classification of Shiva, which is the unmanifest, and Shakti, which is the physical, right? So it's the divine interplay of these two things, where they're trying to see each other, right? And how do you create a balance between the known and the unknown, the physical and the non-physical, is through yoga. Yoga is that connection which connects you, between these two things, right? And that's what most of the people know. Like the physical part of the yoga is like one part of it, but there are different things. And then the fifth one is what they say as aushadha. Aushadha is medicine, right? So it could be medicines which can put you into an altered state, and probably permanently shift things. And there are a lot of interesting studies by David Luke, Chris Timmerman on DMT, and ayahuasca, and mushrooms and psilocybin and things as such. So I would say, if you look at from a broad spectrum, there is a very interesting ritualistic perspective in all this, in all these 5 methods. Might it be your genetic expression, to mantras, to coming through a guru or a teacher, to that of yoga, and to that of plant medicine, for that matter. So I really respect the kind of work which gets into channeling and mediumship. So I just wanted to share this with you. Thank you.
Thank you
for
so
that.
much. Thank you for that. It's lovely.
Naeem, you have your hands up. Is it a question with this or something else?
Yeah, it's just a comment on Heather's question there. Using the magnetite, that's something I do. I hold a little piece of that when I remote view. Closing eyes, yeah, I do that too. That's something we
you do
do
close
over.
your eyes. Okay, so I don't feel so bad when I do it then. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
However, it's good to, as we discussed earlier, it's good to follow the rules, but sometimes you have to go with what works for you as an
I guess so.
individual.
But Daz, what I want to say to you, my love, at the beginning, when you were describing what you saw when you did your RV, I missed the boat when it came to RVing 3i, because I like to work blind. But I did do a little bit of channeling, and my guide came through, and I heard him say just one word: time traveling. So when you were outlining all the stuff that came up, I got goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps now. And I thought, oh, time traveling, right? Okay. So it could be us, and somebody here drew something like a transport. There's loads of people on this transport.
Yeah.
It could be the case. It could be us from the future traveling backwards.
It could be at this stage. We're all awaiting proper feedback on this one. So we're all trying to keep an open mind, I think. But
Yeah.
It's interesting. That
It's
data
lovely.
did come across in multiple remote viewing sessions on that
Mm.
target.
Thank you.
Andy, you have your hand up.
Yep. Hi, and hi, Heather. I recognize your voice. I think we've actually worked together separately, so nice to hear your
Nice.
voice on here
Yes, I
on a Friday
recognize
call.
yours.
Yes.
Yes, recognize yours as
So
well.
maybe we could talk about the subject of what you bringing up on a different time. But this
Okay.
question, I think, was kind of more of something that I was wondering about is when you go into a session and maybe you're trying to get different information, but sometimes you pick up a theme and it's really hard to let go and try to switch to something else and get more information separate from what your initial impressions are. So I was just curious if anyone who's done a lot of like project management has ever tried to experimenting with maybe completely retasking a viewer so that the viewer doesn't, instead of just doing a move command, you could revisit that and just do a complete new target. Because sometimes as a viewer, it could be hard to let go of those initial impressions and really be quote unquote even more blind to getting more data into the same type of project, right? So I was just curious, like, do viewers or people that have been doing this more, do they ever try doing that? Like, so the viewers thinks it's a completely different target, so you get more spontaneous stuff instead of just, either retasking or just requeuing where the viewer knows it's the same project, right? I'm just curious if any insight on that.
Yeah, Andy, we do that a lot. We do it in the Hellfire group and do it a lot in Rabbit Hole as well. So a viewer may come back with an RV session, and you can tell, even the most seasoned viewers may be building their AOL a little bit with a bit of noise. So we do a second tasking, but you have to be very careful on how you retask in that way, because you have to be very non-leading, and you can't also introduce any new information that's coming from you personally. So what I do in that situation is I try to gently nudge the remote viewer to focus upon a different piece of their data. So I will say, I'll probably go back to them, and Carl and Dimi and Naeem and others will be, subjected to this. I'll go back with something like, on page 6 you did a sketch. Go get more, or
Yeah.
go sketch more, or describe more. So I'm trying to get them a little bit more on tack and focus, but I'm not. I would never go back to them and say, you're AOL stop. Do this instead. So you're trying to subtly nudge them without saying much.
I think the question was, or I guess what I'm asking is, instead of retasking where the viewer knows it's the same parent project or whatever, right? Like, is there any benefit to possibly trying giving a whole new session where they think it's a totally different or they don't know if it's a different project, right? That way they're not potentially clouded with prior perceptions.
Well, you could just assign a whole new, you could give it a whole new target and a whole new set of coordinates and say, thanks for that. Here's a new set of coordinates. Tell me what you see here.
And yeah, just curious if that would be more blinded, so maybe it gets more raw. Because maybe they found a man-made and a biological, and they did a whole bunch of stuff on the biological. And instead of saying, "Oh, go back and maybe just a whole new project number," so they don't even know that it's related, unless they pick up on it, through psychically. And I don't know if there's just any data that maybe shows if that might be more helpful or get more. I don't know.
I have given a separate target and a separate number. I haven't any data on if that's beneficial, because I've done it in close proximity to the original target. For it to be fully detached, you might have to wait a week or a month or so and then give them another target. On it. So there's a time distance, so that they might be oh no, this just isn't a continuation of what I'm working. It is actually, in their mind they're actually thinking it's something different.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I think I was just gonna say on that, I think like half of it is experience, like a viewer's ability to disconnect and like forget the last session. Like a lot of people, when they first start remote viewing, they have like a recent target bias. Like, you worked whatever you worked on the last target, you're thinking of in the next target, or you're going to think you're contradicting yourself. So I think half of it is the viewer's ability to say, okay, I'm done with that. Let me start fresh. Like, no matter how many times you try and retask or remix it, they might still do that. So half of it, I think, is on the viewer. And then having like a new target number or somehow retasking them, that could work. I remember we did Skinwalker Ranch for FFG, and Daz tasked that one, and my first like 2 sessions were just off, and then he just gave me a different target ID, and I was on target. So sometimes it's just trying again. Sometimes it's, you know, whatever, just bad sessions, and sometimes it's that part of us that wants to hang on to the last session.
Yeah.
And I think that's what most of the time is what happens in those situations.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we all want to hang on to our RV sessions, especially in the training phase. You know, you're just so keen on what you're doing; it's so new. You do hang on and take it to the next target. You think, I wonder if this is the same target as I worked last week. But yeah, as a testament to this, me and Naeem and Edward and stuff doing the FFG, we do so many targets that when we debrief a target a week later, you know, we're all in the meeting room before it starts, and someone says, you know, oh, we're looking at last week's target you guys did, and Dennis usually comes on. He goes, "What do you feel about this target?" And I'm like, I didn't even remember what I did last week for the review session. So how do I know what I feel about it? So we over time we've learned, like, once we do a target, it's just gone. I don't even remember what I done the very next day. It's just disappeared. And when you can get that level, that helps as well in the process.
Yeah, Daz, if I may add to that, Julia Mossbridge once suggested that, you know, we'll create random IDs and do random sessions and associate, you know, these sessions randomly with these IDs, right? And now the tasker comes in and, you know, picks up one intention and randomly associates that, you know, with a random session. You would still see a strong correlation saying that, you know, you decided an intent and that, you know, specifically coordinated with a random session out there, right? So even that is a very interesting perspective on this. Yeah.
I could add a couple of things on this too. Those are wild cards that you're talking about, Kavan, which Prudence initiated way back. I've never found them particularly effective, but she and John Vivanco, her number 2, said they're equally valid. Just so a word for another situation here. So I'm in her Mavericks group, which is in training, you know, and also trying to form an operational team. And what her advice is simply when you want to get stuck in a session, you want to get a fresh perspective, simply write a new perspective. And of course, that's a little bit different from just saying go up 30 feet or go, you know, different prompts like that. But that seems to help. And also, of course, taking the TRN repeatedly can also help. I do that in the mappings I'm doing. I take it 4 or 5 times. You know, I've commented before. I've seen Paul Smith apparently, you know, take the TRN maybe 20 times on the first 5 pages, and there's hardly anything. And then boom, on page 6 or 7, you know, he comes forward with a lot of good stuff. That's in some of the examples we've seen from his training, not so much from his operational, because that stuff he doesn't show very much. But anyway, that's just a real brief perspective, a little bit from this other group that I'm in now, the mapping group, which has 40 people, by the way, who are training. But we're all learning this new method that she developed over about 10 or 15 years. So none of us are really skilled at it. And she's amazing at it. If you've seen any of her videos where there's hard confirmation, which is the ones you trust most. And just as another footnote, she does 75, 80% of all the work she does is confirmable. She doesn't do, you know, lots of esoterics, and she urges the people who are taking part in Mavericks also to do 90%, and that's what I do of confirmables, because all this stuff about UFOs, we still lack usually much confirmation. And for anybody that doesn't know, I'm a firm believer in UFOs since 1952, so that's not the issue. It's just the, you know, getting the feedback for it. So that's just another perspective from a different group.
So John, when you say her, are you referring to Julia Mossbridge here, or is it anybody else?
I'm sorry?
When you refer her methodology, whose methodology are you referring to?
Berta Jaworski, who was also known as Prue Calabrese. And of course,
yeah,
Julia Mossbridge, you know, studied with Vivanco, and then she had her own version of, and now she's even branched out with operational remote viewing. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Could I offer a quick counterpoint to what you were saying there, John, about taking the TRN up to 20 times? The way I trained was to take it once at the beginning of the session and not leave any room for mistakes. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. And when you have the expectation that it will be right the first time and complete the first time, pretty soon the system adapts and it is right, and you don't have to waste time doing it. Because if you're already planning to do it a million times, you're kind of asking for it to take that many times before the thing works. Whereas if you approach it with the attitude that this will be right, the system will adapt and it will just be right, in my experience. And it saves a lot of time as well. It just allows you to kind of
Well, let me just say
flash
about
straight
that,
past
though,
it.
that when you review all of the training material from English Swan's archives, pretty much all those viewers, as far as I can recall, take the TRN quite a few times, and certainly not just once. That's
Well,
my
I would like to think that they probably didn't have all of the answers back then, and that we could still improve upon what they did all those years ago. And that remote viewing is
I agree, and you have each person is going to find their own method that works best for them. I'm just saying that the historical evidence was on that side of it. But yeah, if that works for you, great.
Yeah, I think I used the coordinate number and maybe even ideograms 10, 20 times for every RV session.
I use loads of ideograms, but just to get into the session, like most of us are probably old enough to remember dial-up internet when the modem used to make the screaming noises.
Yeah.
That's the function of stage one. You know, you're never writing your summary and putting your stage one data in there, is it? It's just to kind of kickstart the thing. And usually by the time I turn the page, I've already forgotten what I wrote anyway. So it's just to kind of get
For me, it
through
just gives me a
get
new
past it quick.
spark. Once I feel it drying up, if I just take the number again, I just get a new kickstart. It's like, oh, another spark of electricity. But as John said, we're all individuals. You have to find your own path with this. There is no
Yeah,
single
try
route.
stuff, see what works.
Yeah,
Could I
absolutely.
just like totally off topic, random interruption? Somebody was asking about like psychokinesis and stuff earlier. That lamp there above me is one of the RNG powered lamps. You can't buy the Celeron ones anymore, but now you can get these from, oh, it's changing color. So if anybody wants to play with it psychically, feel free. The brighter it is, the stronger the anomaly. Cavan had a chart of the random walk escaping the parabola. That thing's using two random walks, and the color depends on whether they're agreeing with each other or they're moving opposite to each other or whatever. The color is a different pattern. Brighter is a higher level of anomaly, and if you manage to push it into like really extreme anomalistic territory, it will start flashing and spinning and going crazy, which it doesn't usually do. But yeah, so if anybody wants.
Have you found that works? Because we tried it at the conference up in Taos, and it seemed like it was all over the place. I don't know if it's the same model that you have, though.
Oh, yeah, I mean it works for me. The lamp top thing is like 3D printed, so you can unscrew it and put different ones on. And I got one that was a 3D scan of one of the crystals at the Monroe Institute, that was a prototype. So I was taking some pictures of that just to show people. And I was just saying to the lamp, okay, can you go blue now? Can you go green? Can you go orange? And it just did for me. Usually it won't do that, but when I needed to take photos, it did. I find usually when I'm chilling out in here, it's blue. It's blue almost all the time when it's just me. And it's been like orange and pink and stuff a lot on this call, which is interesting. It was perfectly matching Daz's background flow
So,
pink thing before.
David, where did you get this from?
Let me find the link. It is
Yes.
made where's it go weird? Here we go. All right. I will put the
Because the reason I asked this is because you in the beginning when I was in my lab at CU Boulder, my professor gave me the original the Celeron mind lamp, and I used to play around with it. You know, it's a very intimate experience with light and RNG and all that. So
this one is using there's the link in the chat. This one's using multiple
thank you.
RNGs, so it's able to pick up stuff that would just get missed on a single RNG. This is like some Austrian and German scientists manufacturing this in cahoots with the Go Weird, WYRD, who are kind of like the spiritual successor to the Pear Lab. they have all of the gadgets that they had at the Pear Lab, all of the machine. There's like drum machines, and this thing hits a drum, and you can influence it with your mind. And they've got a thing that drops ball bearings down through a bunch of pegs, and it makes a Gaussian distribution. And people were like trying to skew it to the right or the left with them. You know, it's got all these cool toys. They've got them shipped over to North Yorkshire here in the UK, where you can go play with them. So they're kind of working on all of these consciousness technologies now. And they have a device, a research device called the Weirdoscope, which has 4 separate random event generators in it. And that just is like a data logging machine. They've been running some research where they had it in a hospice. And so they were tracking like the moment of death. Are we seeing crazy spikes? And spoiler alert, yes,
Wow.
you are seeing crazy spikes in whatever this thing measures, like at the moment of death, and around it. Although, you know, it's inconsistent. This phenomena is difficult to study, and to, you know, it doesn't
Thank you
always
for the
behave
link.
the same
This
way.
looks very amazing, though. They're doing
Yeah.
some amazing work.
It's cool
Yeah.
stuff. But anyway, if
Yeah.
anybody wants a lamp, you can buy one again now, and you don't have to hanker over the Celeron lamp anymore.
Thanks, guys, on that. We're coming up, well, we're definitely over 2 hours at the moment. So let's just do one more question for this week. And, you know, we'll come back in a couple of weeks because, you know, it looks like everyone's enjoying doing these again and we're all sharing some great information. So, Margie, you had your hand up for a while. If you want to be that last question or comment.
Oh, yeah, I just saw in the chat that Jello had a question, and I wonder if you could like read that and ask that to the operational viewers. Daz, you're muted.
Sorry. So the question was from Jello: what qualifies a person to be a mentor for a beginner? And is there an established and correct route in which to find a mentor? Or is it case by case, or even not so important? I think David, with a correct answer below, said make sure they show you their work first, and so that you can see they're good, and make sure you vibe with them over try to find more than one method in school. That's good advice, really. There's so many people out there teaching so many different methods. It is hard, but just have a look around, ask many questions. But as David said, always ask to see someone's examples of their work, a portfolio. A bit like, you know, if you were going to hire anyone to do any work in your house or anything for you, you'd want to see their credentials first, and make sure that you can vibe with them and trust them. Anyone else want to add anything to the mentoring thing there?
I just want to congratulate, I think Pat was, that she took your course, because you're my mentor, and I pray to God for having you so many years, and thank you for that too. Sorry
That's
for
okay.
the.
It's all good, Demi. It's all
Thank
good.
you.
We're all, and just bear in mind, everyone here, you really know, there are no experts here, guys. We're all learning this. We're all on this same journey together. We're all students of remote viewing. Excellent, guys. Well, thanks for everyone for participating and answering and all the questions, and even adding all the links and stuff that's in the chat window. So anyone that wants that, remember to save that for yourself now, because there's some good resources in there. And what we'll do is, this has been away for a year now, but you know, it's a good vibe. Everyone's asking some great questions and stuff. So we'll probably do this on a continual basis every couple of weeks for the winter and see how we get on. What I'll try to do is I'll try to reach out to Glenn Wheaton from HRVG, see if he wants to comment anything on his latest project and stuff like that. If not, we'll also look for some guests and stuff as well. So if you have any suggestions, just hit me up in the Facebook group or something, and we'll see who we can get on board. You know, guests or topics. We'll see what we can do on this. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for coming, and I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you very much for inviting
thank
us.
you, Daz.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
See you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.